Hi, I'm Bill Pearis, an editor at Brooklyn Vegan, and you're listening to the Brooklyn Vegan Interview Podcast, which features conversations with some of our favorite artists. Today, we're talking with Baxter Dury, who has been making records since 2002, but has been around music since birth, as he's the son of the legendary British musician Ian Dury. In fact, that's him on the cover of Ian Dury and the Blockheads' classic 1977 album, New Boots and Panties. You can hear some of his dad in Baxter's vocals, which come with a thick London accent, but otherwise Baxter has charted his own path with a unique style that mixes dub, post-punk, synth-pop, disco, and 60s orchestral pop. Albarone is Baxter's 8th album, and it was produced by Paul Epworth, who is best known for his work with Adele, but he got his start in the 2000s post-punk revival working on records by Bloc Party, the Futureheads, and more. The gleaming synth-pop on this album owes a little more to 90s French touch house music and is a great vehicle for Baxter's unique worldview and creative swearing. I talked to Baxter in July as he and Paul Epworth were in the studio collaborating on a cover of English Teachers' This Could Be Texas for an upcoming compilation, so stay tuned for that. We talked about the new album, his and Paul's working relationship, his time as a film student at NYU in the 90s, why he's never played America, and if that might change, and lots more. I'm a huge fan of Baxter's albums, so it was great to finally get to pick his brain. Here's our conversation. Albarone, this is your 8th album, and as we've said, you made this one with Paul Epworth, who is kind of a producer to the stars, Adele and Florence, etc. But he kind of got his start in the 2000s, like in the indie world, and I have to assume that you probably ran in similar circles back then. How did you guys come to actually make this record together?
Well, we may have won in similar circles, but we didn't know each other. This one, we knew each other anyways. I just contradicted myself, but how did we get to do this? Well, I bumped into him fortuitously in Glastonbury last year, and we had one of those kind of conversations that people have that you may not base a huge amount of truth on. People talk in the foggy, heady fields of Glastonbury, and they may say things they don't mean. But we exchanged a few pleasantries. He'd seen me play live. He suggested, I can help you with this. I registered that remark, but I said that to about 24 different people that weekend. He probably said it to 140. So surprisingly enough, a month later, we're in his big palatial studio in North London, and it worked, and we did do it, and it was a good pairing.
Yeah, definitely. And this was his first producing job in a long time, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think things had happened, the apocalypse of the world, and everyone. You might do it, you get a bit of burnout, you get a bit of perspective burnout, don't you? And you can achieve a lot and get a lot of glossy awards, but that can sort of send you, sort of disorientate you maybe. And I think he wanted a sort of an entrance back into music, to make music in a way that he wanted to, with someone what you might title a bit more shop-soiled, or a bit more from a different musical place, and potentially with less commercial expectations. Might have been fun for his brain at this point. Mm-hmm. I guess that's why, not to underplay myself and my commercial prospects, but maybe it was a sort of different thing than going into the sort of chandeliers pop world.
I think your albums, you always sound like you, but Albarone is definitely like a swerve into a lane that you've kind of gone in before, but never fully committed to. A lot synthier. Did you have a clear idea of what you wanted the album to sound like?
I mean, I had a discussion with him. My principles were up tempo. It was I was aiming at maybe maturing our live show, so the thing went into a faster, what I deem as more impulsive music, whereas maybe before I'd made more theoretical music where people sit and think about it, and I wanted more of a responsive. And I wanted to start with my theoretical music and then graduate, so it became faster and a bit more like a rave, where people are thinking less maybe and more reacting with their bodies. So that's what we were he was trying to frame by keeping the kind of, keeping me like I am. I mean, I don't have that much range to and versatility in some senses, that I can only do one thing that's quite coarse, and I'm glad I can only do one thing. And he had a bit of a task working around that, sort of changing the format.
If you had to like describe the sound of the album in like a word or a phrase, what would you say?
Oh, it was a mature art school rave.
Okay. Gleaming always comes to mind when I listen to your record.
This one, the one that just happened, I like that. But gleaming, it depends on what you mean by gleaming.
I don't know. It's just like the synthesizers, and it just sounds like polished steel or something to me.
Great, that's what I wanted. Exactly the words I used.
You've dabbled in dance music before, but this feels like you're really sort of diving in there. And I almost like, to me, the only antecedent that you really have before this is that song "Family" that you did with Etienne de Crécy in like 2016. There's definitely like some French touch stuff going on this time, right?
Well, I made a song with Fred again. That's quite that was quite a dance. I mean, that was what the thing we did with Fred again when we played that live. When I started to experiment with a sort of a more up-tempo thing, you started to see how people reacted and how people got into it in a different way. So that's when I started to see humans move for the first time. But Etienne's also an old, he's a historically significant part of that French dance scene, and whether he taught me a lot, he showed me a lot, and we did a whole album together as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the Bed record
that delves into that territory.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then Paul's quite referential of this kind of music. I had a bit of I've got more of a feeling about it, and also you don't want to get too react. What's the word? You don't want to recreate something perfectly. You want to sort of I want my own naive take on a kind of dance genre. So you sort of claim it as your own. So it couldn't go too perfectly into that realm. We're not imposing upon it or trying to compete in that world. It's still my world and Paul's world or whatever, but it's still very much me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer the question there. I just talked randomly. Sorry.
No, I think that answered that. How does your songwriting process work these days? Like on a record like Happy Soup, I can sort of hear like traditional forms, but to me, like I can't quite get my head around like where things start. Do you start with the lyrics, or is there a musical idea, or?
Well, I think it's always different because, I've got the privilege of being my own, responsible for myself, not a band. So I don't have to sit there enduring 5 other people's points of view. And in that way, I can sort of change it around a bit. And that's why I chose to do this differently. So in fact, this one was done very quickly I had a load of songs, and realistically, Paul didn't really listen to them. I think for him to be involved, he just wanted to be quite creative. So he started making music very quickly, and then I'd start responding to it. So the songwriting process is different. It's a different kind of experiment. And we didn't have a lot of time because we couldn't really afford it. So there was a sort of very narrow window we had. So is that do they work narrow windows? Yeah. We had a short amount of time, and then I was sort of forced to write very quickly in response to what he was creating initially, and then we sort of more collaborative as we went along. As we established a sort of a code or a kind of glossary, a way of us, of things that we both liked and could work. We established that quite quickly, and I wrote really quickly. So this was quite different. But I'm so experienced in writing lyrics and over years and years and years and years that I don't sort of worry about that bit very well, and the melodies come quite naturally and they're quite simple. So that was in a way quite easy, and it's more trying to find the core theme of something or not getting too pretentious about what you're saying and stuff.
You said you came up with a glossary of things that you both liked. What were some of those things?
Well, tempo, sort of, the right understanding the right kind of dance stuff that supports some kind of song structure. You know, you could go into some sort of gnarly note world where nothing really, you could go really bonkers, you know what I mean? Which would sound good at 4 o'clock in the morning at the Berghain. Some weird place, some sweaty, windowless place. But,
Sure.
you know, there had to be some sort of link to what I was doing. And also what I was saying had to be accounted for. The sort of the narratives, you know, there had to be space for that. It couldn't all just be me going, you know, cut up and sonically molested. You say sonically molested these days?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Could you maybe take me through like the process of a song, sort of like from first idea to the end? I was thinking maybe Return of the Sharpheads, because that has a little bit of like what I consider like classic Baxter Dury sound, but also is indicative of what the new album sounds like.
Well, I think he probably was trying to pursue something he thought sounded a bit like something I would do. So maybe he was in a sort of Miami or one of these songs that I might be more known for. I think he was trying to tap into that, and maybe had a kind of groove or a loop, and then he would send me that loop and I'd go home and work out a melodic. I always begin, I'm the sort of the last consideration, the sort of my performance and the sort of nonsense, or not nonsense, I might say. The thing that I have to anchor a song down with is some sort of choral, melodic, satisfying piece of, otherwise I'm just like, whoa, it's too man-led art school, and you know, it's too discordant for me, and I want to hear music primarily. I'm a bit tired by hearing man not singing over music, so I try and tend to all the things that make it resemble a song, and then I'll put my bit. And that one, it was pretty last minute, and I had to sort of use my subconscious skills at being able to say a lot of jumbled up, poignant phrases all at once without really knowing what was going to come out of my mouth next. So it was all more or less done in one take or 2 takes.
Oh, okay. Like off the cuff? Like off the cuff? Like,
yeah, off the cuff stuff. You get an off the cuff. Yeah, it's very off the cuff. And you get an interesting thing that happens then, because it's unsupervised. When it's too supervised, you get a bit aware of yourself. It gets a bit actory. It gets a bit too thespy. So
the choruses with Madeline or whoever come first.
Gray did this one, yeah.
Yeah.
So we wrote those, and then she'd come in and nail it. Yeah, it was fun, because we didn't have time to sit and think whether it was good or bad or whatever. There was this time, let's do it. This is what we got. We don't have time to explore for more singles or more things. We just didn't have time. And we didn't have enough money. And there's sort of, you know, with clever people without enough time and a nice place, they're probably the perfect work setting. Because as soon as we all can indulge. And when you've got the sort of setting to indulge, like the environment, which is this studio, well, I'm in a very small bit of it now, but it turns into a sort of Death Star-like place of dreams. You could probably indulge forever. If you had enough of a purse, if you had no financial restrictions, you could go on forever here. But it would be the curse.
You say you didn't have much time. How long did it actually take to make the record?
Well, we had a few months, and then we had very short working hours. I mean, he's always going to take his dog to therapy or something, and there's always confusing family type logistics to consider 24/7. So it was always, we worked for 3 or 4 hours a day in a few weeks, really. We did it in a few weeks. We also recorded the whole thing with a band. We re-recorded it all with a band, and then got rid of all that mostly. There's little elements of it in the record, but we decided it had gone too unelectronic, and the original idea was to be electronic. So we did a lot in that time.
I haven't been to London in a long time, so I'm not familiar with Albarone. But at what point did you get the idea to take that and make it like an almost like Italian place or something, you know, Albarone?
Well, I didn't make that up. Someone else told me that joke. and told me that joke prior to me going there one day on an ill-advised rendezvous, I could say, or a meeting with somebody that didn't go down too well. And I'd made that joke on the evening, which is probably why it didn't go down too well. And so it just stayed with me. But in the speed and the pressure we had to finish the record, any available story recently experienced was relevant. So I just snatched at things that had stimulated me or upset me or made me happy, and that was a particular scenario that had triggered something. So, and I just remembered a joke about a pretty mundane place to go and drink made into a posher place by calling it Albarone. Mm-hmm. It's what they call it in Manchester. It's a chain of bars. They're pretty soulless.
Is it like what would be over here, like a TGI Fridays or an Applebee's or something like that?
TGI Fridays, absolutely. You've got it. It's a sort of office hell where people, sort of corporate suicidal hellhole.
Gotcha. In the quotes you've given about the songs that have been released off the record a lot, Shoreditch comes up a lot. Like I said, I don't know much about that neighborhood, or is the whole record kind of would you say that's like ground zero for Albarone, or?
Well, Albarone doesn't exist. I don't know if there's an all by one there, but it was more just the opposing side of London to where I live, and I'm just being critical of. It's a bit East Village, you know what I mean? It's a bit sort of over pontified and too many zips in the shoulders and people with flannelly clothes and fashion lizards. And I'm being a bit critical of it, but also in some way I emerge in that criticism. So it's a sort of self-reflective criticism.
Your lyrics are always like so vivid. How much you said that like Alberoni like was based on like something that happened to you at least a little bit. How much do you draw from real life? How much is invented or maybe eavesdropped?
You know what? It's a sort of perfect mixture. There's enough fictionalized to sort of make it litigiously unobvious, so you would never really know. But then if you really studied it, you might spot yourself in a sort of scenario somewhere in the song. So I think they're kind of based on a lot of truth, and then made a bit wacky, and using the tools of songwriting to not have to explain much or be over aware about what people might misconstrue. I mean, songs are very interpretable, so, and that's what my job is. It's not a documentary. It sort of burdens a song with too much information if you're too honest or too detailed. So it's a mixture. All of it happened and none of it happened.
Mm-hmm. I was definitely wondering in the case of like Schadenfreude, like, is that something real or something that like, you heard, or?
It's kind of real, kind of not real. I mean, all the settings are made a bit more exotic, you know what I mean? But I was in those places and I was upset. But it's a mixture. Mm-hmm. It's a mixture enough that I nearly keep on getting in trouble all the time already.
Yeah. You mentioned that you had a band come in to play most of the records and you got rid of a lot of that, but some songs you can still hear it. And you've always kind of had an amazing murderer's row of studio musicians with you. Like, I mean, on this one, Damon Reese and Billy Fuller, and previous records you had Adrian Utley and Jeff Barrow. How much, like, do you have bass lines like that you've already like figured out, and do you like tell Billy Fuller you got to play this, or does he come up with his own stuff?
Sometimes he comes up with his own stuff, but a lot of the time, Billy would just find his own angle on stuff. He's just very quick and he just nails it. He just doesn't take a lot for him to commandeer something, so it becomes his anyway, really. Mm-hmm. And he's such a great, intuitive, painless musician that it's just a joy to be around. And then the same with all of them. They're what you call Harrod's hamper. I don't even know what the Harrod's hamper is, but
I know what a Harrod's is, but I don't know what the hamper is.
Imagine getting a hamper from Harrod's.
Okay.
It's the equivalent of band. they're very good, yeah, and they're a joy to work with.
And a lot of talent behind the boards this time too. You got David Wrench who mixed it, and he's done it all and is amazing.
He's really amazing. Yeah, totally. Yeah, very lucky. We're in a good place, to these people we started to work with a bit. And I guess a lot of people really want to work with Paul and are intrigued about what he might do next, or maybe him doing something a bit out of the circle or circuit is interesting for people like David Wrench. To see Paul working with someone like me, there's a sort of meant to be a bit of a blend of pop and not pop in there. And I think, yeah, we're lucky.
I mean, obviously, if you know anything about David Wrench beyond just like his CV, he's got a lot of like weird stuff going. I mean, his own band, Audiobooks, is I could see you guys touring together, and I don't know, maybe you played together.
Yeah, they supported us for a whole tour once. Yeah. Yeah, they're great. I mean, he's brilliant. He's also a sort of no fuss. You don't really fuss with him. He's sort of quite minimal words. You get half 2 minutes of a conversation, and then he just closes in and goes into his world. He's brilliant. There's no drama, or it's just very, very precise, I think. It was great on this record, especially.
I know you're touring this fall. Have you ever played North America, or not a single show ever, not even during the Rough Trade years?
Nope. I mean, there was more of a likelihood then in the Rough Trade years, but no, it's never really been I think it's that thing where they've always, whether, I don't know, people have even asked, or they've even got an agent. I was always a bit miffed by that, whether my colloquialness was alienating to an American audience, possibly, but I didn't know there was much of I get a lot of messages from America. I get a lot of people talking about it. I just literally got a message from, this sounds really celeb-y, but I just got a message of Charles from the Pixies saying, he's just my number one fan. You got to come to America, man. But it's never happened yet.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, if America is even like a concern for you, like commercially, like for your career.
Well, it isn't at the moment because I've built it around that, because it's not happened. If there was a rational way of making that work, I would do it. I would really be intrigued. I like to play the obvious places, you know what I mean? And for me, it would be an important thing to do next. And I'm wondering whether this record might make that happen.
Yeah. I think you should at least play New York and LA if nothing else.
Yeah, it seems crazy. I'm sure we'd get an audience there.
I will say, I live in the Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn, and there is a bar near me, and you are on regular rotation in there.
There we are. There's just and I shall play this, my agent or whoever the relevant person is now, and we'll see you in a few months.
Okay. When I got like Night Chancers, I was like, he clearly shot this in New York, and how dare he like not at least try to play a show, Yeah,
it was great shooting there. I loved shooting that there. I went to NYU when I was about 22. 23, I was I went and did the film course there. Somehow I'd raised some money, I don't know how. And I did it was called a Titch film course. And it had, was it Scorsese's and Spike Lee or something like that were the patrons of the course. I mean, they didn't turn up much. And it was a brilliant, and I know it, I'm connected to it and I know it. And that was when it was in the mid 90s. So it was a sort of coming out of its 80s reputation. And I remember it fondly. It's an entirely different place these days, but
absolutely.
I lived off Washington Square and 94th, and all this stuff. And I know it so well.
Wow. Okay.
But I've been there loads of times. So yeah, it seems a shame not to.
Yeah. I moved here in 95. So.
Oh, there you go. You remember what it's like. It was a different in the East. It was still in the East Village was still a bit like, whoa. Now, when I went there last time, I was like, to me, it's the equivalent of Hampstead. The Manhattan is incredibly, it's a different place than it used to be. Not necessarily worse or better, just different.
Yeah.
Washington Square used to be a very exciting place, I remember.
It's still a wild place.
Is it? Okay, good.
Not as wild as it used to be now that, like, there's like a weed store on every corner now, like.
I haven't seen it since then.
Yeah.
There used to be a lot of Vietnam vets that were playing chess in there. Maybe that whole that's faded. They're probably either too old or passed away by now. But there was a lot of people with missing limbs and a lot of kind of excitable people.
Still a lot of chess players.
Oh, okay, good.
Speaking of mid-90s, you've toured with, you've opened for Pulp recently, and you toured with Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. And of course, Oasis is back and all these other bands are back. What do you make about all this Britpop revivalism that's going on at the moment?
I don't think it's a surprise. I mean, people maybe there's a sort of new generation, Gen Z or whatever the other thing is called. They're all into it. And I guess as long as they do it with the right intention. I mean, I'm a friend of Jarvis's and I'm absolutely dumbfounded by the level of commitment, work, and how skillfully he's made his last album. And then if you saw anything that he played at Glastonbury, it was such an incredible performance. So he's been so impressive. And I think actually with goodwill, the Gallagher brothers, everyone I know that has gone to see them have said it was mind-blowing, So good for them if they're doing it for the right reasons and they're doing it well and there's a need for it. I don't know if it's even about Britpop, it's just the sort of the better songwriters of that period probably of just an Oasis, however whatever appeals about Oasis seems to have remained and stayed with people. So, and that's got to be a good thing. Apart from arguing about ticket prices and all that, but anything that colossal scale is always going to have arguments about it. I think it's good.
You said like 1995, maybe, were you still in New York then?
It was more 95, 96. I was there in 6 maybe, so I can't remember.
Were you into those bands back then, and where did your allegiances lie?
I sort of like Pulp because I'm I like the sort of weedier. I was not so much into the masculinized thing. I mean, Britain had gone very macho then. I wasn't so into that. And I was never really embedded very much into indie music until I started playing it myself. I was much more from a kind of hip hop generation. And I was that very first generation that got all the music filtering through from New York in the mid-80s. And it was quite scarce at first, and there wasn't many people playing it. And we were into Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, and that's that kind of, and the music that informed that music, I was much more into sort of Black American funk music and stuff. And that's where my heart lies. And probably from my family and dad and stuff was into that kind of music. Mm-hmm. So I was naturally that bothered. I just wasn't bothered. I didn't really listen to it that much. Mm-hmm. I was a bit of an outsider kid,
New York in 1995 was a very exciting place for hip hop at the time, so.
Definitely. Well, it had been 10 years, wasn't it, really? 10, 15, 20 years or by then, yeah. I was much more into that, really, and still am.
Well, I think that's about it. I do have one more question. Speaking of Jarvis, I actually floated this idea to him 6 years ago when I ran into him when he was promoting the Jarvis record. I told him that you and him should make a record together, and it should be called Sexy British Whispering. What do you think about that?
I think if he's up for it, I'll reapproach him. Oh, and he'll whisper back and say, "Not now. Not time now. I'm busy." We'll see.
Well, Baxter, thanks very much for taking some time out of your day to talk to me.
I really enjoyed it.
All right. Good luck with the record. I think it's fantastic, and I hope to see you guys over here maybe next year or something.
Let's get that. Let's make that work because it seems ridiculous. Yeah.
Who's in your band, in your live band?
Well, at the moment, Fabienne has been with me for a long time. She plays keyboards and sings. Mm-hmm. I called Sean Patterson, plays guitars and bass. And a new guy, who I don't know his surname, called Matt, is playing the drums because he only rolled up about 4 days ago. Our other drummer was in a crisis, but now we're staying with Matt. So Matt's the drummer. So there's 4 of us all together. We keep it quite simple because also I would like to bridge that rave electronic music and band thing and keep it in between the two. So there's a bit of track coming out and a bit of like drum machines and stuff.
Got it. All right, Baxter.
Oh, mate.
Thanks very much. Have a good rest of your day.
And you.
All right, thanks again to Baxter Dury for talking to us, and be sure to check out his great new album, Albarone, which is out now on Heavenly Records. If you're looking for more, I also highly recommend Prince of Tears and Happy Soup, but all his records are worth giving a spin. Meanwhile, you should also check out our other podcast, BV Weekly, where my coworkers Dave and Andrew, and occasionally myself, discuss the week's hot button music news, the latest releases, and more. You can also follow Brooklyn Vegan on social media, and if you liked this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, write us a review, and tell your friends about us. These things really do help get the word out. Extra special thanks to our mix engineer, Nick Gray, for making everything sound amazing, and Michael Silverstein for the theme music. I'm Bill Pearis. Thanks for listening.